Hey y'all, we're here with Screen Fanatic, and we three have just watched the first episode of the new Moon Knight series, and we have feelings, we have thoughts and opinions. I'm Danny Danger.
Hey, I'm Mars.
And I'm Jenn, Mayhem's Muse. So today we're going to give you a few things. We're going to give you a brief walkthrough of what the thing is. Then we're going to shift into the spoilery content. So those of you who have not seen the property, we will give you a great big stop here. Don't go ahead. Proceed to X period in the video, which we will leave a thing in the thing. And then we will proceed to give you our final thoughts on what we liked, what we didn't, questions, concerns, all of those things. We have various degrees of knowledge of this property, which is nice. I am the complete and total noob with no experience of anything Moon Knight.
I am the one that's doing all the coverage for the website, including all of our recaps and Easter eggs.
And I know medium about Moon Knight.
Everything's about balance.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm a big fan of Marvel Comics. I have read a little bit of Moon Knight crossover in other series, but never actually a Moon Knight title. So
Okay.
All right.
So
Take us
what we've got in the show is a character that's not tremendously familiar to a lot of folks, so that I get, and he's a complex as heck character. Mark Spector is a mercenary, so actually let me go back a little bit here. Small pause. In the show we've got Stephen Grant, who is a kind of a bumbling kind of guy who's going through his life, and he's got issues with time loss. He's got issues with having sleep issues, waking up where things have changed, and not quite understanding what the heck is going on. And this is because Stephen Grant is an alternate identity of Mark Spector, who is a mercenary who is super strong, doing a lot of just kind of breakdown, dealing with terrorists and all kinds of things of that nature. Mark Spector is also Moon Knight. So in this show, the first episode, we get an introduction to what exactly that dissociative identity disorder is like for Steven. So Steven is us. He's the audience. So just kind of like, what the heck is this?
yeah,
And he goes through scenes where he's bouncing between Mark and Moon Knight, and we don't, really see his other characters until the end of the episode. So it's really good for me, an introduction for, what all this is, because it's really different than anything we've experienced with Marvel, including the TV shows and the movies. And it's... Oscar Isaac just does such a great job, and I'm waiting to see what else we get from it. I know there was a lot of confusion with the first episode, and it just kind of doesn't move forward a bunch, but it's really important to understand how bonkers Steven's life is, and the fact that he's realizing right now exactly how bonkers it is. Because his other personalities are breaking through and telling him, hey, what are you doing here? Compared to the comics, Stephen Grant is kind of this Bruce Wayne type character versus what we're getting here.
just more of a Martin Freeman
yeah,
type character.
Yeah, very
like,
much so.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a little bit of a change there, and it kind of seems like what they're doing is that he's going to be kind of he's us in this story, very much so. I'm just kind of like, what the heck is going on? What is all of this stuff? And also a bit of a researcher, because when he's staying awake, he's researching Egyptology and being able to kind of figure out stuff from there.
I was really surprised that they went the route of featuring Steven over Mark. That feels a lot more digestible. It feels more relatable to the audience. And also, like, he's just kind of like an Egyptian history otaku.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I really love for him.
Yeah. In the comics, there's a character that is a cabbie that does all of kind of the Mark and the amalgam? I guess that's what we could call it. He does a lot of kind of intelligence gathering and that type of thing. And it kind of seems like they've moved Stephen Grant into that space, and he's just more dorky. So he's someone that's more relatable to everybody. It's like he's got a bad boss. He's got coworkers that don't remember what his name is. that type of thing. So again, it's just kind of, he is us in this story, viewing all this crazy stuff, that's going around him, like, what the heck is this? So
do we know from the comics, or is it okay to say at this point, knowing we're going into a thing, do we know which of the personalities we've seen so far is the actual, like, primary, this is who this person was born as before these other personalities came to
so be? The primary in the comics is Mark Spector.
Okay.
We're not sure if that's what it's going to be in the series or not. There's been some kind of talk of, they wanted to have Mark Spector kind of be like this side character and Steven be the main, just because Mark is really violent. He's a mercenary and he's very violent, and he's, not someone you want to mess with. So in the show so far, we've seen Stephen Grant, who is the one with the English accent, who works the museum. We have seen Mark Spector. We have seen Mr. Knight, who's the one with the close-fitting mask and the suit. We've seen him in some of the marketing material, and we've seen Moon Knight both in the show and the marketing material. So I think they're going to stick with those 4 instead of expanding out, because Mark does have a couple others in the comics.
My knowledge of dissociative identity disorder is that it is usually brought on by some sort of traumatic event. Is that the case with this property? Is that something that comes into the storyline at all?
Yes, it is.
That's a really fascinating choice for Marvel to make. I'm really happy to see something like this being given screen time then, because it's such a misunderstood or not well represented part of the world's psychology situation. So
an overly utilized plot point, and yet never accurate.
Never really given how this works and what it's like. So this is fascinating to see that they're taking that tack with it.
And they've done a good job with it. Initially, it was kind of, DID is used in comic books and stories sometimes as like the superpower. You'll note in this first episode, it is definitely not a superpower for Steven whatsoever. He's exhausted, he's frustrated, he can't keep together relationships because of it. So it's just, it's a more realistic,
it's grounded
portrayal of what this disorder can do to people.
There's also like a fine line between when you're watching a show about something like this, there's a fine line between I'm really pulled into the story by the effect that, of course, like him just waking up in random places, being really confused and overwhelmed, happens plenty in the story, but they do it in such a way that it is not too jarring, which I think was part of my concern going into it, was like, is capturing this incredibly jarring experience going to be jarring for me as an audience member to watch? And I think they handled that really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was something that I was prepared for. What did you think about the first jump that we had where he was playing with the Rubik's Cube and then suddenly another country?
It took me a while to understand, because I know nothing about this going in, and deliberately, when I heard this was coming out, I did not do any research because I wanted to go with, I don't know anything, what's this like for somebody who doesn't know something? So for me, I think that was all it took for me to understand this is what's happening, like some sort of extra element is happening here. I got it very quickly, and it was very interesting to me. I wasn't sure how it would manifest. I didn't know it was a DID situation, but I got, okay, there's a bigger story element happening here. I'm fascinated to see where this is going to go. I initially thought that there were going to be 2 episodes of this release at first. So when the first episode finished, I was like, okay, ready to jump into the second one. And then there wasn't a second one, and I was left going, oh, I want more. I want to know what's happening here, which is always a good sign with any show like this. If it leaves you hanging in a good way, that's a great place to start. I really felt like this didn't read for me like a normal Marvel show would at the beginning. It reads much more psychological, which obviously, and I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. Is this something that's just going to manifest at the very beginning to set the scene? Is it something that's going to keep going throughout the show? I'm really fascinated to see where this goes and what they do with it moving forward. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's also going to say it was nice that Kenoshu, who's voiced by F. Murray Abraham perfectly, hasn't had his teeth removed. I mean, he's just kind of like, oh, you're an idiot, and he's just like, that is how he is in the comics. He's in the back of Mark's head constantly, helping him do things, telling him what to do. And he's not really like this, here, Fluffy, give me a hug kind of personality at all.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that tripped me up at the beginning, now that you mention it. So he, at one point in it, he pulls something out of his pocket, and they very much hone in on, like, this is part of what this is about, is this,
The scarab.
this thing, the scarab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if what was happening to him was because of that, or if it was something independent, that this is a relic that has a part to play in the story, but it's not what is causing what's happening to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't sure at first if it was the scarab is causing XYZ thing, or if that is completely separate. And I still don't know based on what I know of the show. So that's going to be interesting to see, for me not knowing anything, what part that has to play, why it matters, why it's important, and why people are after it.
Mm-hmm.
Neat.
Yeah. Outside of Mark and co, we have Ethan Hawke as Arthur Harrow. Arthur Harrow is mentioned once in the comics.
Oh.
In the 1980s. But it kind of seems like he's going to be a mix of characters. The initial thought was that he was going to be the Sun King who worked with Amun-Ra. Again, this is all Egyptian themed. But this is different. So he's got a cult. He's got this name from the comics, but he's attached to a god that's not in the comics at all.
Oh.
So it's going to be, that's where the kind of wrench for me was thrown. I'm like, ooh, what is this? So he's connected with Amet, and Amet is a Egyptian god that lives in the underworld. She is, so when Anubis judges a soul, if that soul is deemed worthy, they go on to the land of the dead. If they are not, Amet eats them. So she is part of the, just kind of that mechanism. And she is a punishment for dark souls. And she has the head of a crocodile, the forelimbs of a lion, and the back end of a hippopotamus, which are all man-eating creatures. So it's kind of interesting to have that one chosen. The director of the series is Egyptian.
Oh.
So he's pulling from things that he knows, that
That's nice.
a lot of Western audiences are just kind of like, hey, what the heck is this? So it's interesting to see that. So he's judging souls with this cane, and using some kind of magic we're not quite sure of right now. In one of the teasers that they put out, he uses purple magic, which is the same magic that Agatha uses, and the same magic that was used by the cult in the first Doctor Strange movie. So it comes from the dark place. So we'll see more of how he uses this. But I thought it was a good introduction, and that opening scene with the glass is just like, holy crap.
We are committed to the crazy.
Yes.
It was so funny too, because it was like two very focal points coming into, and I was like, is this like a Tarantino flick? Like, what's happening right now? Do we like feet?
Apparently we do.
We love feet. Okay, cool.
It's interesting that you said that the cane is what was allowing him to weigh the souls, because I focused not on the cane, but on the tattoo on his arm and its movement. So I didn't catch that.
He's putting his arms out like this and holding somebody's hands, and he's got the tattoo here that's definitely magic and giving him some sort. But the cane that he uses is a double-headed crocodile, and that he's resting it in between his forearms and swinging it like a pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that helps activate this part here.
Neat.
So, yeah, he's going to be an interesting character, because it's just like, he's got some basis in the comics and some that aren't, which is a nice thing for folks like me, because it's a surprise. We don't know what to expect out of this at all.
So many of the Marvel movies, and even like the upcoming newer Marvel shows, are following very clear paths that are tread in the comics, and Moon Knight does not appear to be doing that, which is
interesting,
new and unusual.
Yeah. Going over the show, because I ended up watching it really early, I've covered a lot of the other Marvel shows. There was one Easter egg in this episode, which is really different compared to like WandaVision and Loki, where there was just like, there were tons all over the place. So it kind of seems like they're throwing in a little bit of stuff that,
what was the one Easter egg?
So in the comics, Mark Spector works with a character called Frenchie during his mercenary days, and he calls on him on occasion for help. And as he's going through the phone with all of Layla's calls, Frenchie's name pops up.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I did see that.
Yep, that's who that is. We don't know if we're going to see him or if it was just kind of like oh, hey, this
nod.
thing. So we'll see. But that was really the only major Easter egg that was in the episode. And again, compared to the other ones that are more connected in with the movies, yeah, it was really surprising because my Easter egg list for WandaVision were like 15 to 20 things long
Yeah.
every single episode, and this one was one.
It makes me wonder how much, if at all, the Moon Knight series is going to play into the greater MCU.
That's my question.
And that's the other interesting thing too, is that like Moon Knight often gets left out of, like, intentionally by characters. Like during Civil War, nobody wanted Moon Knight on their team.
No.
They're like, you are
No.
this canon, you're
Yeah.
going to hurt our cause.
Tony Stark
GTFO.
hates him in the comics.
Yeah.
Tony Stark totally hates him in the comics because he's just unpredictable.
Okay, interesting. So it might
That's
be a
funny
deliberate.
coming from Tony Stark.
Yeah.
This might remain separate from what's happening in all of the other
Yeah.
storylines,
Yeah,
rather than
there's-
being a part of.
So since the development, they've kind of talked about it being like its own separate thing, but at the same time, there are rumors running around about possible connections with the next Doctor Strange movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's coming from outlets that were able to see the first 4 episodes. I have not watched that far forward because I want to keep up exactly how our audience is keeping up, so I haven't read forward yet. But there's been some talk about some connection there, so, that's something to kind of keep an eye out for.
Well, and also we're looking at like some of the, movies like Shang-Chi are rebuilding on a lore that, maybe is really outdated or is kind of doing its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still opportunities, I think, for there to be like some crossover and interaction with these new stories that are building. Also, I'm just feeling like we're a little overdue for some Shang-Chi tie-in to
Yes,
the
yes.
MCU. It's been a
Please.
hot minute.
Karaoke for everybody. I need it.
Can you imagine the voice of Mark, like, so mad that Steven is wasting time doing karaoke?
Yeah.
Or better yet, getting into it.
Yeah. Like, it's time for some metal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hot.
Mark was supposed to be, when he was brought in the comics, kind of this Batman-esque type character, but because of the dissociative identity disorder and his connection with an Egyptian god is what gives him his Moon Knight, his power. He's just kind of, nobody really likes him, and he's kind of a loner throughout all of, working with the Avengers and that type of thing. It's like, we only call Mark when we really need something nuts. Because
Nuts is fun.
But
So he and
that
Deadpool
does-
are going to hang out, is what you're saying.
Well, I
Mayhem.
mean, I think Deadpool would probably get a crack
Oh,
out
yeah.
out of just the sheer chaos
Yeah.
energy. But like it is, I mean, in this situation that we're building with Mark, they've already made a point to illustrate like this is a very isolating experience
Yeah.
that he's having. And so what does that mean for the show's supporting cast? And what does that, because Marvel really, the MCU really loves good sidekicks and tie-ins and this feels very different.
Because so far we've gotten our protagonist and our antagonist, and then there's Layla. So we've heard Layla's voice, we've seen Layla's name. The thought is that she's kind of a avatar for Mark's girlfriend from the comics, whose name is different and whose nationality is also different. And a little bit, but it seems like the background is about the same. So I'm sure we'll meet Layla next go around for the next episode. And that'll be an interesting to add in a third party, and then I think that'll bring in more of Mark's backstory as a merc and how he became Moon Knight.
Neat.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've gotten all the like juicy secret stuff out of the way, what would you say to somebody who was considering watching Moon Knight, who maybe doesn't know anything about it and is just walking into it fresh? How'd you feel about it?
It's really good. It's very different from everything else in Marvel. So if you feel like the other shows were a little bit like cookie cutter, this is not that. You're going to come up with surprises and humor. and really great performances because we've got 2 Oscar caliber actors, going head to head in this. So I definitely give the first episode a watch and see where it goes from there. But as a fan, I'm super happy, and just kind of as someone who likes watching MCU, I'm also very happy. They've done really well.
I would mirror that with, like, I feel like they've captured a lot of things really well. I feel like they made, the character of Steven a little goofier, and it plays nicely in contrast. Especially because we already have, he is sort of like this Batman-esque character, but we already have so much Batman.
Yeah.
And so I like that they kind of moved around and made it original and did something different with it. I feel like the CGI feels a little bumpy, a little goofy. The whole process of him like masking up confused me a little. Kind of.
I mean, it's supposed to be kind of like a mummy rap, basically, where everything just kind of comes out of the ether and surrounds him and becomes at that. But I do definitely agree with the CG. That was my one sticking point.
Yeah.
As somebody who doesn't know anything about the property, this was enjoyable. I'm in it. I want to know more about it. I am looking forward to seeing where the show goes. In general, I've always found the mythology around Egypt to be fascinating. It's deep. There's so much nuance to it. There's so much there. So to not only know that that's about to come to play in the Marvel universe, but to know that the person directing it is rooted in that culture is really exciting. I am very excited to learn things that I don't know about that culture and to see that represented on screen. And as we've said already, I could watch Oscar Isaac or Ethan Hawke paint a white wall and be really happy about it. So getting to see, and this is very different from what I've gotten to see Oscar Isaac do before. So I'm excited to see. He's already shown so much nuance in this character. This is going to be some good stuff. I am very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the show would be as good as if they didn't get Oscar in this role.
Yeah, he definitely seems to have a knack for it. And it's great too because he can switch between like dark and broody and tired and stretched out to whimsical and funny very easily, which I relate to.
And the accent was entirely his idea.
Nice.
Oh,
okay.
Sweet babe.
That was his idea. So
I like that they've cast his character as like this person that like, okay, it is Oscar Isaacs and therefore we have to make this really nerdy character that everyone is sort of like, come here, I protect. Like
Yep.
And it's funny, he's one of the like bombshells of the acting universe right now. And so to see him pull off nerdy, awkward bro really well is kind of disconcerting, but like, you are such a great actor. Go you.
Put him in a little bit of oversized clothing and
some little bags under the eyes, which relate.
Such relate. Such relate.
We all need a nap.
So I think we all three of us with different kind of varying understandings of what was going on and what the characters are really enjoyed the first episode and are looking forward to more.
Yes.
So that was our opinions and kind of first thoughts on the series. If you want some more information, my explainer for Moon Knight is down in the description below, along with our first recap of the first episode that you should check out after you watch the first episode. It's got a lot of spoilers in it. Again, this has been Mars from Screen Fanatic.
I'm Jen, Mayhem's Muse.
I'm Danny Danger.
And please take a second, like the video, like the channel, subscribe to all the things, check us out on all the social medias, and send us some comments below. What are you excited about? What do you want to see? What didn't you like? Tell us all the things below. Right. Bye, folks.